Hello and welcome students to the class of Business Statistics. In the last class, we were discussing about data and the classification of data. So basically, we study about four classifications, right? Now, before classification, before bifurcation, firstly we have to collect that data, right? So how do we collect any kind of data? So data may be obtained either from the primary source or the secondary source. A primary source is one that itself collects the data. Secondary source is one that makes available data which is collected by some other agencies. For example, the data collected by the Ministry of Industries and made available through various publications constitute primary source. However, if the Ministry of Industries uses data collected by some other organizations, this will constitute secondary data. Now, there are various methods to collect data. So, let's start with first one. So basically, firstly, we will study all the categories, like in how many ways you can collect primary data. So it can be obtained by applying any of the following methods: direct personal interviews, indirect oral interviews, information from correspondents, mailed questionnaire method, schedules sent through enumerators. The first one is direct personal interviews. Under this method of collecting data, there is a face-to-face contact with the persons from whom the information is to be obtained, known as informants. The interviewer asks them questions pertaining to the survey and collects the desired information. Thus, if a person wants to collect data about the working conditions of the workers of a fish processing industry, he would go to the industry, contact the workers, and obtain the desired informations. The information thus obtained is first hand and original in character. Second is indirect oral interviews. Under this method of collecting data, the investigator contacts third parties called witness capable of supplying the necessary information. The method is generally adopted in those cases where the information to be obtained is of a complex nature and the informants are not inclined to respond if approached directly. For example, in an inquiry regarding addiction to drugs, alcohol, etc., people may be reluctant to supply information about their own habits. It would be necessary in that case to get the desired information from those dealing in drugs, liquor, or other people who may be knowing them. For example, their neighbors, friends, etc. Similarly, if a fire has broken out a certain place, the cause of fire may be traced by contacting persons living in the neighborhood of that area. In a similar manner, clues about thefts or murders are obtained by the police by interrogating third parties who are supposed to have knowledge about the case under investigation. Inquiry committees and commissions appointed by the government generally adopt this method to get people's views and all possible details of facts relating to the inquiry. Next is information from correspondents. Under this method, the investigator appoints local agents or correspondents in different places to collect information. These correspondents collect and transmit the information to the central office where the data are processed. Newspaper agencies generally adopt this method. Correspondents in different places supply information relating to such events as accidents, riots, strikes, etc. to the head office. The correspondents may be paid or honorary persons, but generally they are paid. This method is also adopted by various departments of government in such cases where regular information is to be collected from a wide area. For example, in the construction of wholesale price index numbers, regular information is obtained from correspondents appointed in different areas. This method is particularly suitable in case of crop estimates. The special advantages to this method is that it is cheap and appropriate for extensive investigation. However, it may not always ensure accurate results because of the personal prejudice and bias of the correspondents. Suitability, as stated above, this method is generally adopted in those cases where the information is to be obtained at regular intervals from a wide area. Next is mailed questionnaire method. Under this method, a set of questions pertaining to the survey, known as questionnaire, is prepared and is sent to the informants by post. The questionnaire contains questions and provides space for recording answers. A request is made to the informants through a covering letter to fill up the questionnaire and send it back within the specified time. The questionnaire studies can be classified on the basis of the degree to which the questionnaire is formalized or structured, the disguise or lack of disguise of the questionnaire, and the communication method used. When no formal questionnaire is in use, interviewers adapt their questioning to each interview as it progresses or perhaps elicit responses by indirect methods such as showing pictures on which the respondent comments. When a prescribed sequence of question is followed, it is referred to as a structured study. On the other hand, when no prescribed sequence of question is exists, the study is non-structured. When questions are constructed so that the objective is clear to the respondents, they are non-disguised. On the other hand, when the objective is not clear, the questionnaire is a disguised one. Using these two bases of classification, four types of studies can be distinguished: non-disguised structured, non-disguised non-structured, disguised structured, and disguised non-structured. Last is schedules sent through enumerators. Under this method, enumerators or interviewers take the schedules, meet the informants, and fill in their replies. A schedule is filled by the interviewer in a face-to-face situation with the informant. Merits: it can be adopted even if the informants are illiterate. Non-response is almost nil as the enumerators go personally and contact the informants. The information collected is reliable. The enumerators can be properly trained for the same. Limitations: it is costliest method. Extensive training is to be given to the enumerators for collecting correct and uniform information. Then methods from secondary data. In most of the studies, the investigator may find it very difficult to collect primary data on all related issues, and as such, he makes use of the data collected by the others. There is a vast amount of published information from which statistical studies may be made, and fresh statistics are constantly in a state of production. The sources of secondary data can broadly be classified into two heads. First is published sources, second one is unpublished sources. So, published sources. The various sources of published data are reports and official publications of international bodies such as the World Bank, International Labour Organization, Statistical Office of the United States. Central and state governments such as Abstract of the Indian Union, Economic Survey of India 1988 to 89, etc. Semi-official publications of various local bodies such as municipal corporations and district boards. Third one is publications of autonomous and private institutes such as trade and professional bodies, the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, the Institute of Chartered Accountants, the Institute of Foreign Trade. The prestigious journals of these institutes are respectively Economic Trends, the Chartered Accountant, Foreign Trade Review. Financial and economical journals such as Indian Economical Review, Reserve Bank of India Bulletin, Indian Finance, then annual reports of joint stock companies and corporations. Publications brought out by various autonomous research institutes and scholars such as Institute of Economic Pune. It should be noted that the publications mentioned above vary with regard to the periodicity of publication. Some are published at regular intervals like yearly, monthly, weekly, whereas others are ad hoc publications, that is, with no regularity about periodicity of publications. Thank you.